mandatory motorcycle helmet law?
Absolutely not, especially if they're over 21 years of age.
I think you shouldn't have a law for that.
If you get in an accident and you're wearing a helmet, if they move you a certain way and try to take off the helmet, you can die because of your neck moves a certain way or something.
I like to flow my hair in the wind freely and widely.
Welcome back to the Week in Rock. Actor Gary Busey, an outspoken opponent of mandatory helmet requirements for motorcyclists, wasn't wearing a helmet himself when he was thrown off his own bike last Sunday and went flying head first onto a curb. Busey required brain surgery and was listed in critical condition for several days. But by week's end, doctors at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles were predicting a complete recovery for the 44-year-old performer. With her debut album now certified triple platinum, teen star Debbie Gibson was hard at work in a New York City studio this week, finishing off a follow-up. We dropped by to see how it was going.
Hi, I'm Debbie, and let's see. Well, I haven't come out with any new records lately, but that's what we're here to tell you about. I'm in the studio, and I'm in the middle of working on a new album, and MTV has barged in and taken over. No, just kidding. Probably people are going to say, you know, why'd you put youth in the title of your album if you're trying to, you know, kind of show people a more mature side of you. But basically, it's just a song about, you know, treating young people like people.
Munching Doritos and calling the shots. That's how we found Debbie Gibson in a Manhattan studio where she was in the final day of mixing her second album, Electric Youth. After selling over 3 million copies of her debut effort, Out of the Blue, she's got a lot to live up to on the new LP.
Sophomore jinx. I knew he was going to say that.
Gibson hopes to avoid that jinx with a record she predicts will show her growth as a songwriter.
Just for the moment, should the moment pass us by. You know, on the first album, the songs are written between the ages of like 13 and 16. And there's a big difference between a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old, you know. And so I think that this album still keeps the fun elements of like the first album, but it also shows a more mature side of me.
Deborah's newfound musical maturity is taking the form of more complex arrangements, thoughtful lyrics, and a bid for adult contemporary acceptance with ballads like the first single, Lost in Your Eyes.
I'll go right to the chorus. I don't mind not knowing what I'm headed for.
From production to album covers to video choreography, Gibson maintains a hand in virtually every aspect of her career.
I think that a lot of people still don't realize that I'm very involved in my career because a lot of people just associate my name with being young. And when you're young, you're supposed to just take orders from everyone else, which is, you know, not the case in my situation. Wait, hold on. I wanted that one cut permanently.
Electric Youth is due out next month, and a world tour will soon follow. Having now passed the personal milestones of her all-important 18th birthday and her high school graduation, Debbie's hoping the new LP will help put an end to those nagging comparisons between her and other teen performers like Tiffany.
I guess, you know, you can't help those kinds of comparisons, but I think that as people hear more of my music and more of her music and the other young performers, they'll start to see, you know, our styles developing and hopefully won't lump us together. Hey, I'm 18, I'm not a minor anymore.
In art news, meanwhile, celebrated pop artist Keith Haring surfaced in New York this week with his first exhibit in 2 years. And of course, we were there on hand.
You can't live in New York and not be in touch with the street, really. I mean, if you live in New York City, you know, the street is part of you. Well, I've been painting murals or, you know, storefronts, things like that on the Lower East Side in that neighborhood around Avenue D for like the last 7 years. So this was just, it was like the new edition. It was this year's mural.
Don't believe the hype.
The main thing was in the was Don't Believe the Hype, which is taken from Public Enemy, but means a lot of other things besides what they were inferring it to mean. And it was really about getting out of the Lower East Side, I guess, or getting off of Avenue D and using your mind to get ahead instead of, you know, greed or guns or drugs, whatever.
It's hard to tell what's there. The harder it is to tell, the better I like it.
If it's good, it changes and it grows and it gets better. I mean, it's sort of a continual growing process and changes little by little. Well, Jean-Michel has been my favorite painter since the time I met him 10 years ago. And, you know, it's hard to say how much influence anything has on you, but it was my favorite artist, so it must have had some influence. A lot of the drawings in the downstairs are collages with pieces of things I've had in my, you know, studio or in my, you know, tacked on the wall, things like that, and then glued down and turned into drawings.
I find him as important as Warhol, you know. I have for some time. He captures the time and an energy of a space. I think an artist at best represents his time, and I think Keith Haring represents the time that we're living in.
And in even artier news, Blue Velvet director David Lynch has unveiled his latest film, a 30-second public service announcement aimed at litter bugs. The spot was commissioned for New York City, but it's relevant just about anywhere. Here's a quick look, then a quick break, and then we'll be back with more of the Week in Rock.
Perhaps if there were fewer pigs in the city, there'd be fewer rats.
Who, one of the greatest bands ever. When?
Next Sunday.
Where?
On MTV.
Why?
Because if they don't, we'll trash the place.
The Who are back. At 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, catch Who's Back, the story of The Who, with exclusive new interviews and rare archival footage. Followed by The Who movie, The Kids Are All Right. MTV's Who Sunday. Music and special reports from one of the original rock and roll bands of all time. Next Sunday on MTV, The Who.
If I was the kind of man who believed in angels, I'd say that's what she was. An angel dropped from the sky like the answer to a prayer, with eyes as brown as bark. No, I don't think so. Violet. Eyes as violet as the colors in a child's imagination. Yeah.
Durasoft Colors contact lenses get brown eyes a second look.
Holiday greetings from Budweiser. The people who bring you Budweiser wish you and yours the very best of everything this holiday season.
Thermacell will set you free. Any style you wanna be. No plug, no cord, no battery to keep you moving on. Got it.
For hot styles to go anywhere, carry a Thermacell cordless styling appliance everywhere.
Thermacell will set you free to keep you moving on. Got it.
Get that Conair confidence.
Happy holidays from our house to yours, from Soul the Florist. You'll find something special at Soul the Florist. Soul has great gifts for everyone on your list, including silk or fresh flowers, traditional holiday pieces, and unique gifts. And one size fits all. We'll send your gift across the street or across the country with our national wire service. It's all here at Soul the Florist. Soul the Florist, 249 Ashley Boulevard, New Bedford.
Extra, THB breaks record for windfall buyout, named the Buyout Store. Check out these values. Stanley Garage door openers, 3 models to choose from, starting at an unbelievable $79.99. Microwave carts in solid wood with casters, a super value at $19.99. Leaded crystal stemware in 3 styles, wine, goblet, and champagne for just 79 cents each. You'll find these and hundreds of other items selling at below wholesale cost at THB, the Buyout Store, with locations in Fall River and New Bedford.
Welcome back to the Week in Rock. Casting Man Mountain Arnold Schwarzenegger and diminutive Danny DeVito as identical twins is what is known in Hollywood as a high-concept move. The jokes just about tell themselves. The movie's called Twins, and the story goes something like this.
Who are you?
I'm Vincent's brother.
We're twins.
Even Spy magazine and its monthly feature Separated at Birth couldn't have dreamed this one up. Only Hollywood would ask you to believe an Austrian bodybuilder as the fraternal twin brother of a short, balding Italian guy. Ivan Reitman, the director of Ghostbusters, came up with this truly inspired idea. First he called up Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he liked it. Then he sounded out Danny DeVito.
I said, what is it? What's the story? He says, twins. You're twins. You're fraternal twins separated at birth. I hung up on him. He called me back, right? I said, Ivan, give me a break. Is this a joke or what?
My name is Julius, and I'm your twin brother.
Oh, obviously. The moment I sat down, I thought I was looking into a mirror.
The character that I play in Twins is quite different than what I've ever played before. I mean, people won't believe it, that it's me.
Oh, it's Arnold, all right, and you won't believe it. Check out this action. See Arnold dance. See him talk on his car phone. And yes, see Arnold get the girl.
Good night.
Good night. In most of my films, my love interests are the explosives and the guns and the knives and all this kind of killing devices. So now on Twins, for instance, there was a story where it's perfect, where there is a love interest, where there is this woman that is seducing me.
Well, now that Schwarzenegger has taken the romantic comedy route, DeVito wants to pursue this violence thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It was a very violent act, you know, and I saw it in the screening and the audience loved it, you know, and perhaps in the future, I will incorporate some more vicious things into my pictures. Violence. Ultra-violence.
And how about that much-rumored Schwarzenegger sense of humor?
God knows he's like a, you know, he's a practical joker, and he's got a great sense of fun and spirit. And then, you know, if we could just get him to talk.
Twins is open all across the country this weekend. 21 exiled Tibetan monks performed a Buddhist religious ceremony in New York's Cathedral of St. John the Divine last weekend with an opening act led by Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart. As you can probably imagine, it was quite a show. This is music from the roof of the world, made by Tibetan monks capable of producing sub-bass tones and 3 separate notes at one time. It's an extraordinary species of human song that's more than 500 years old.
They manipulate their cavity, their throat cavity, and their upper respiratory regions. 20 years it takes to really master this technique. But this is really athletic. You can rip your throat up doing this. This is not for novices or for the uninitiated. This is not for play. This is for prayer.
To help make some of the Gyuto monks' prayers come true, Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart, who produced a current Windham Hill album of the monks' tantric ritual chants, organized an opening act of sorts for their New York appearance. Hart himself provided minimalist percussion, while in a loft high above the altar, composer Philip Glass, a longtime student of Asian music, manned the church's enormous pipe organ. To round out this group, Hart rang up an old friend, the Japanese keyboardist Kitaro, probably the biggest-selling New Age artist in the world.
Mickey called to me. Please come. Okay. That's all.
After a 20-minute modal performance by Hart & Company, the lights went down and the monks began their rumbling, otherworldly chant.
It's obviously music that's meant to evoke a very spiritual state. But then again, in many ways, most music does that too. The way it's done in Tibet is very special. The kind of overtones that we hear one voice and you hear 2 notes. That's something very special to that culture.
For hundreds of years, the Gyuto monks performed their rituals in their own great monastery in Tibet, until they were driven out by communist Chinese invaders in 1959. One of the many Western students of Buddhism who have been appalled by events under the brutal Chinese occupation of Tibet in the 3 decades since then is the actor Richard Gere.
1,200,000 Tibetans have been killed during that occupation. 6,000 monasteries have been totally destroyed. A lot of evidence to forced sterilization, forced abortions, a very systematic cultural genocide.
Last year, Gear helped found Tibet House, a cultural institute that, among other things, brought the monks to America. They didn't put on a performance in the Western sense, but tickets were sold, some for as much as $100 each, and the money brought in will help the monks to build a monastery of their own in Nepal. Will they eventually raise enough? The musicians who came together to help them out in New York think that God is probably on their side.
This is Kalma.
And that is once again it for the Week in Rock. We'll be back next week with ZZ Top, Vixen, and a bunch of other intriguing things. Right now, we're going to leave you with a bit of history, the late and very great Roy Orbison, circa 1964. We'll see you next week.
And speaking of Britain, you're about to meet the only American in the last 2 years who's had a #1 hit in England. And here he is to sing that worldwide hit song, Pretty Woman. Ladies and gentlemen, Roy Orbison!
The Week in Rock is brought to you by Budweiser and by Conair, makers of Thermacell hot sticks and Geometrics.
All right, stand by. Replay on slow-mo A. Roll A and dissolve A. Good. Roll C. Wipe C. Let's get white and out on camera 8 over there. Nod so I know you're there, somebody. Ready, D. Get back to the coach on that. Okay, let's go to camera 5, please. White and out. Ready, camera 8. Take 8. I didn't know your family was in town. Go to camera 2. Nice work, people. Very nice work.
For the teamwork, the clean, crisp taste of Beechwood-aged Budweiser.
So what are you going to do tonight? Probably watch TV.
Look at that look, frenzy, that look. Get all those looks with Frenzy.
It's Frenzy by Wall, the flat styling iron for Z-shaped curls. Frenzy creates angular curls.
Ooh,
Frenzy adds texture and body.
Yeah!
Then just look at those looks.
There's a whole lot of looks. Just look at those looks. Get all those looks with Frenzy.
We have, of course, our standard lineup of comedy coming your way this evening, our Sunday night British comedy lineup. Also, MTV's half-hour comedy hour in just 30 minutes. Right now, it's down to the basement for Ken and his friends with Remote Control.